Hi everybody, welcome to Cheer Chat. It is almost fall. Fall starts tomorrow. Do I need to start having like apple cider and I'm not into all that. I'm a summer girl, spring, summer all day. Fall I could kind of do without, but other than football, basketball will be starting soon. It's just about that time of year. So there's a lot of good things happening. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, you guys. I've been seeing the posts from teams introducing your dancers who are of that heritage, and I'm excited to see what you end up doing to celebrate. Keep it up. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. It's just nice to see representation. And cheers. I'm gonna start with my rosé. I feel like it's been a little bit of a minute. There's been so much going on in my little world. Sure you guys have been busy too. So I told you I'd be back, when there's some stuff to talk about. And if you saw the details for today's Cheer Chat, we're going to talk about the USC dance team that was just formed. It's a new Majorette Dance Team. It has gotten quite the buzz on social media. If you have not noticed, the video of them went viral at the USC game. And so lucky, so lucky to have someone join us this evening, Shawn Zachery. She is the coach of the Prairie A&M University's Black Foxes, which is their dance team at Prairie A&M, which is a historically Black college. And she's going to just give us a bit of context for, I don't know if you guys are aware of the controversy. We'll get into it a little bit to frame it up for you. But she's going to just give us a little bit more history of this Majorette dance style. And just let's touch on like appropriation or not. Like there's just a lot of layers to it, and we can't cover them all in Cheer Chat, otherwise we'll be here all night. She's actually finishing practice up with her squad, and so when she's able to join, she'll just pop in. And YouTube land, thanks for listening. Sometimes I record the lives that end up being like with another person, and then it just looks like short and stubby on YouTube. So I think you can hear. Sorry you won't be able to see her, but it is what it is. I mean, we're going live, so I like the interaction. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Oh my gosh, I could be wrong, but I swore I see G. Telford. If that's Jillian Telford that I used to dance with in Philly, I'm going to lose my crap. Is that you? I don't know. I swore that was your last name. Anyway, the point is, thank you for everybody for joining. And I'm going to get into a couple things while we wait for Shawn to join us. Because I've been traveling a little bit. I was just in Baltimore last weekend. I would start backwards because it's fresher, but let me go back to the season opener for the Seahawks that I was just out of the blue. I'm so delighted to hear from my friend who is a season ticket holder in Mexico and invited me to the game. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. Hi, Clinton. Had a great time at the game. I mean, I was not expecting to go. We played Russell Wilson and the Broncos. And if you guys don't know, I mean, that was our quarterback. It's so weird not having him. So it was a huge game. And so it was exciting to be there for the season opener. Everybody's got their preseason games underway in terms of us as performers, right? And this is kind of the big time. So it was great to see. It is! Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Well, not see you, Jillian. Okay, we're catching up. We are absolutely catching up. Oh my gosh. So you guys, I used to dance with Jillian, who just wrote in the chat, in Philadelphia while I was in law school. Oh my goodness, we danced for the Philadelphia Kicks. I don't even know if they still exist, girl. But anyway, the point is, we will catch up. It's so good to see you. And I know you can't stay on, but we will definitely touch base ASAP. We haven't caught up in forever. Okay, where was I? I'll be all over the map. Let me just have another sip on that note. Cheers to Jillian. Seahawks dancers. I got some observations from my games, you guys, and I just want to, thank you, Carlos, for the tickets. Happy to go anytime you're not coming up from Mexico to use them. And so the Seahawks dancers had their debut. They did their pregame performance, the halftime performance with Aloe Black, who was performing. And, I just got to watch their end zone performances. I have footage on footage, and I was debating putting it in my story live, but I have this grand idea that I've been toying with in my mind. You guys have probably heard me talk about it. Like, I want you guys to send me videos of your performances since I cannot travel all over the country to watch you. And I wanted to be able to kind of like have certain categories where it's like seeing how different teams might do like their tunnel, or seeing how like the players tunnel, seeing the pregame performances, seeing how what they do for halftime, how they interact with their drum line, if they dance with their mascot, like the end zone performances, different little things like that. I want to see kick lines and kind of compare a little bit. That's the idea. And so I was saving my footage for that, but whatever. I'm going to try to ask my lovely intern, Kayla, to help me with a damn reel. The reels are just, I can't, you guys. You got the best of me with the reels and the TikTok. I just, it's just not my jam. So it stresses me out beyond belief. I have pictures, I have video, and somebody's going to make it look amazing, not me. But the Seahawks dancers I thought looked really, really sharp. I have observations, and I think I figured out like what my like je ne sais quoi, like my little is, right? Like I think when it comes to the sidelines, especially now that I've seen the Baltimore Ravens, which I'll get into soon, they have a rotation on the field. You know how you're in four corners in a football field, and the male dancers that are on Seahawks dancers do an opposite rotation than the women, so that they dance with each squad once during each quarter. And I just decided, and I finally had my epiphany, I would really prefer, they have like a small squad. I want to say it's like 28 or 20 something of them, but I think that it would look so much better and like make more sense to me as a viewer if, or somebody in the audience, whatever, is if the guys were their own squad that just danced together, and the girls kind of just dispersed and made different squads. I just think in terms of like the performance on game day, they still dance together in the end zones, yay. But like the sidelines, it was just kind of a little distracting. There's certain, what do you call them? You guys call them stingers, fillers, whatever it might be, where you're dancing on the sidelines, and there's just some of them that the guys doing with the girls, it just looked kind of like awkward, and not that they did anything wrong, don't get me wrong, it's just I think it would be more fun to watch like the guys vibe and dance together, and like us seeing them kind of do their thing together as a squad, because it would look more uniform. Does that make sense? That's because I think it just, yeah, that hit me, and I think that would just look visually more appealing in that way, because you'll see in the videos, and it's not a critique of my girls and my guys, I'm just saying, like, for me, I was like, oh, that would actually look cooler to me to see the guys together and seeing the sidelines that they do together versus kind of like doing ripples and things that like are more, it just would look better with them doing kind of like their own thing in their own style of doing sideline routines. That's all I'm going to say. That's my observation, but it was so good seeing everybody and seeing my former teammates that, we all kind of come out and support out of the woodworks, and we all end up in Touchdown City watching the pregame performances, and so many of them are moms now. You guys, I met Brittany's baby, Anthony James Jr. He's so adorable. Everybody's a mom now, having kids. It's just beautiful. I've been seeing people in my feed that are having kids. I'm all over the place. The point is, it was a great game. And you'll see some of the great videos from the game very soon. They did Quentin's routine, matter of fact, for one of their quarter changes, which I thought was really good. So good job, you guys. That's just my little observation, only around sidelines. I just want to kind of see the guys doing their thing together. Nobody's listening to me. I'm going to do it, but that's what I would like to see. Okay. Baltimore Ravens, you guys. I flew out. Okay, who do I think I am? All right, so Seattle, Saturday night or Saturday morning, leave for Baltimore, get there in the afternoon, check in, get situated, and, go to the game Sunday. Thank you to Ray. You guys know I love me some Ray. He was so kind to give me his game day tickets. And my dear friend Reese came up. We went to school together at Georgetown. We had so much fun hanging out, and we did the whole Ravens walk, which is before the game. And I thought it was pretty cool because it's in Seattle. We have like a something similar where you have the sponsors and the booths, and it's a lot of fan interaction. It's kind of like in a little convention area, but Ravens Walk is all outdoors leading up to the stadium. And I was kind of shocked because the cheerleaders are just kind of freely walking around in that whole area. And this is like as the onslaught of fans are coming towards you, heading towards the stadium. And so they would kind of, I don't think they were like alone, like they were in small groups. But they didn't have like security or anything like that, anyone to kind of regulate fans maybe doing too much. I didn't see any of that, right? But I thought it was interesting how they, hung out together and interacted with the fans. It was very up close and personal. The only observations I really had was just that the guys need more love. The girls have little pouches full of their photo cards, and the guys are in a picture on the back. So when I saw Ray and I freaked out, he had to sign on the other side with the group picture. I think the guys kind of are a little bit more background than I expected, and I just think they deserve a little bit more shine. And so that was really kind of my observation there. Like I had to tell some of them, like, you get in the picture. You're not the photographer. You're not security. You know what I mean? You are on the team. And so I would love to see them get a little bit more love and recognition, right? In terms of the game itself, I wanted them to perform more. So I was a little like, what do you mean you don't perform pregame? Or what do you mean you only perform one quarter change? Sorry, that was my dog. But they did a great performance, first quarter change, and I finally got to see the interaction of stunting along with the dancers, the female dancers. And on the sidelines, they were doing coordinated axels and leaps together when they rally. Like, it was just action-packed, and the stunting was next level, just really, really complicated stunts. So I thought they did a great job entertaining. I'm excited to go to more games. I see that Shawn is in the building, and I do not want to keep her because she is in a different time zone. So Shawn, if you could join me, because Lord knows that it'll take me probably longer to figure out how to add you in. But go ahead and join me, Shawn, and let's talk about the new USC Majorette Dance Team. I think she requested. So sorry, YouTube land. It takes 2,500 seconds for it to. There you are. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm going to turn you up a little bit for the benefit of YouTube because I'm really so awesome with the social media that they're getting the audio version of this. But thank you so much for taking time of your evening to join me and just kind of enlighten us all on just more of background and context and like history around this very viral news story that's gone out of the USC Trojans forming a new majorette dance team. And so just in terms of an introduction, my dog really needs to behave. I'm sorry if you can hear her in the background, you guys.
That's all right. I have one sitting around here somewhere. So
okay.
You'll hear him.
Okay. We'll have a little dog party then. But Shawn Zachery, welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. You are the coach of the, Prairie View A&M University Black Foxes dance team, right? And you've been there for a while. You also were a former not LSU. Good gracious. Dancing Dolls from Southern University. Get it together. And so I just would love a little bit of a short intro of who you are, and just thank you so much again for taking the time to help provide a little bit of a context, because this has actually been a very controversial news story. And while we can't cover all the layers and nuances here, I do have some questions just based on our conversation earlier that I think it will be good for people to think about and learn a little something. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll just dive into some questions.
Okay. Well, like you said, my name is Shawn Zachery. I'm currently the coach at Prairie View A&M University with the Black Foxes, and also the interim director for our color guard, Twirling Thunder.
Okay, they do the
bit of everything.
The color guard, yes.
I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I attended Southern University. I was a dancing doll there back in the 80s. So no, I cannot do what they do now. But we danced totally different. It was a whole different vibe back in the 80s. And so I was a dancing doll back then, and I have been coaching since 1996. My first team was the Howard University Ooh La La Dancers.
You coached them first? Okay.
I did, and then I kind of went away from coaching for a while, and then I moved to Atlanta, and I ended up starting a high school team there at Morrow High School, and then ended up getting connected with South Carolina State University. So I was coaching at South Carolina State. Uh,
Okay.
Met my husband, moved to Virginia. I coached at Norfolk State for 1 year, and
Oh,
then
wow.
when he got
Oh,
here in Texas at Prairie View, he brought me with him.
mm-hmm.
And so that's how I ended up here in Prairie View.
Wow. And so everybody's giving you love in the comments, just being their coach while at Howard. I think this is so amazing. I'm just so honored to have you. Thanks to Michelle for connecting us. What I thought would be great in terms of a starting place, and I know I could just talk to you all night, but I will not keep
Yeah.
you all night. If you could just provide like the quick summary of his beautiful history, which is 54 years long, you guys. This is not something that's just popped up yesterday in the viral environment that we all live in. So if you could just give a little bit of history of HBCU dance
Mhm.
and some terminology of of this style, and we'll start there if that's
Okay.
okay.
All right. Now, just keep in mind that that there's I'll probably leave some things out, but I think I pretty much the basics, right?
Okay.
The it HBCU dance team started out as majorette, meaning baton twirling majorettes.
Okay.
Um, Back then, HBCU bands were very military style, and so the women that they had twirling batons sort of followed in that
And that
style.
okay.
And it wasn't until the late 60s that uh, dance teams in the South started saying, maybe we should not twirl. Dancing's really popular. Why don't we just dance without the batons? So
Okay.
it was actually a few of forward thinking band directors who was like, you guys should put the batons down and let's dance. So the very first squad was not in 1968, and that was the Alcorn Golden Girls, and they
Oh,
were actually the first squad to do that. They were followed by the Southern University Dancing Dolls, and that was in 1969. Okay,
okay.
and then if I'm not mistaken, I believe Prairie View came behind
Dancing
them.
dolls. Mm-hmm.
70 Prancing J Sets came in 1971, I believe. Please don't hate me if I got the wrong
Oh yeah, and I
year.
didn't want
If I
dates
got,
and everything, but just
but
no history
it,
quiz, but
it,
yeah.
right, but it basically started down south,
Okay.
and so we started dancing without batons, and
Okay.
that's where it started, and um, the idols or the inspirations for these dance teams was anything pop culture, and it varied from region to region. So for example, and I told you earlier today how with the Black Foxes, the inspiration there was the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, the Kilgore Rangerettes, the June, I think it's June Carter dancers from one of the TV shows.
Oh, Kitty
Uh,
Carter?
what
That
one of those
okay.
shows, yeah, and then the Rockettes, and so that was the inspiration for the Black Foxes. I anything pop culture. We were doing what we saw on TV. We were inspired by what we saw, and so it just kind of picked up from there. So like I said, it started in the South, and then it you started to see the dance teams pop up along the East Coast, and so
Okay.
that's kind of the basics there.
And they're popping up at HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. It wasn't something that was necessarily popping up at, you'll hear us maybe say PWI from time to time, but
Right.
predominantly white institutions. But that's the history of it. It started with HBCUs
Yeah.
and evolved in the dance style. What would you say are like the elements? Because to me, even hearing you say that the influence was pop culture, kind of whatever was going on at the time, to me, when I watch the HBCU dance lines, and I hope I'm even saying that right in terms of dance teams, dance lines, but it is just such a unique style of performance and the quality of the movement. And yes, it can be very, very technical at times, but how would you try to describe the style? And if you call it majorette style, like just kind of give us like the lay of the land of the actual dance involved.
Yeah, that's kind of iffy. That's
Okay.
it's true because um, if you look at where we are now, um, the teams in Mississippi have a totally different style, and their style is mostly what you see when you think of our current day majorette or major. They made it a verb. It's
Okay.
majorette, it's J setting. It's
Got
so they made them verbs. You are big time when the name of your dance team is a verb.
right.
Okay, so
Exactly. Okay.
yeah, those teams in Mississippi just had their own style, just their own flair, and uh, they did partly some of the moves that they did, and one of the most well known is called bucking.
Got you. That's the getting
Okay,
down
so
real, real low and all of the things that
that's
my
right, right.
never did.
Like my says, you get in position number two. That's what he calls it. But you, so you get you down into a deep, deep plie in second position, and it's combined with upper body thrusting to lower body thrusting, and I mean it is a component of what we know to be our style. Now, not every team does it.
Right.
Like I said, that style
Doesn't. Got you.
started in Mississippi. Um, Other teams kind of drifted towards more like Rockette style. You'll see a lot of kick lines. So you'll see a lot of hand movements and drill team movements. So, they did find inspiration from maybe some of the PWI teams around that were more drill and so
Hmm.
hand movements and a lot of kicks, but we would add extra flair to it. So we would,
Claire. Yes.
do right, did more body movements, more head movements. So that's kind of where the style was back then. But
Okay.
if you look at where we are now, we still have the teams that mimic the Mississippi styles, the J sets, the Golden Girls, the Satin Dolls. But you also have teams now, and of course the Dancing Dolls and the Foxes are definitely two of those teams that are more technical.
Got
So over time the style changed, and the reason that the style changed is because as we kind of as the Black middle class grew,
you.
more
Hmm.
Black dancers were taking dance
Yes.
class. And
Right.
so now all of a sudden you have young dancers who have been going to dance class and going to ballet and going to jazz, and they're going to college, and they're bringing all of that all of that experience with them. And
Hmm.
so you started to see the style of the HBCU dance teams change, and
Change. Right.
and you
Yes, she's
start
giving history. Sorry, people are commenting, but this is the context and history that we needed. So yes, keep going
yeah,
though.
yeah,
But that makes a lot of sense because it used to be so cost prohibitive in our neighborhood or
right,
where the way that I grew up to be able to go to dance classes and get that training. But that
yeah,
makes sense when you think of the historical shift of the Black middle class, like you said, and there's the ability to send your kids through that kind of dance training and program so they're arriving in school and colleges ready to yes.
that's
Makes
right.
a lot of
That's
sense.
right. And
Got you.
I grew up in an area that I literally live right down the street from Southern University. Okay.
Okay.
So I grew up from the time I was very young around highly educated people and people who were all about education and all about going to college. And Southern University was, it wasn't even a choice. It's like you're going to Southern.
Right, right.
That's where you're going. And then, but it's not, that didn't just happen in Baton Rouge. It happened everywhere. It
Mhm.
happened in Jackson, Mississippi. It happened in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where you're going to college,
Right.
and so the neighborhoods around these universities and the professors that lived around there, and I lived in a neighborhood where a lot of the professors lived and a
Yeah.
lot of the administrators lived. So, yeah, we started to see the Black middle class really start to explode, and so
Yeah.
we got involved in a lot of different things, and dance was one of them. I was a gymnast for many years. I was one of very few Black gymnasts in Baton Rouge at the time. And,
Hmm.
I was a gymnast, and, I kind of shifted to dance, and I was in a marching band for forever until I was a senior in high school. And
Right.
uh, so, yeah, that's where you started to see the styles shift and everything kind of change. And as the time started to change, and you started seeing, if you look at some of the TV shows, because we like to watch TV in the
Right.
late 70s and the 80s, we didn't miss certain shows,
Right.
you
Especially
know.
with music
So we
videos and things of this. Yeah, exactly.
So we
Exactly.
would watch these shows, and we would, oh yeah, okay, let's do that. Well, let's do that.
Mhm.
And so because back then, if you remember, and people in my age group will remember, you had a lot of variety shows, and
Yeah.
all of the variety shows had dancers. you know and so we were influenced by all of this stuff, and so we just kind of threw it into our repertoire, but of course it just had to have that flair.
Extra
and
flavor.
and um and then the bands, our marching bands, were playing top, the most popular R&B music,
Yeah.
and so we had to match that.
Right.
So
Right.
that's kind of how the style evolved.
And I appreciate you kind of talking us through that because I think, even in understanding what we see in terms of performances, do you call them stand routines of like what you're doing in the stands next to the band?
Mm-hmm.
You're also performing at halftime with the band on football fields and all elements whatsoever. I mean, it's just very much, I mean, just to bring it to like pro cheer and dance, I know that there are a lot of people who are on these teams. I mean, we've had people shouting out their teams. Kayla's with Mahogany Emotion for Spelman and danced for
Yeah.
the Hawks for a while. So a lot of people have this background. Can you speak to a little bit of the training involved as the shifted over time, and obviously with social media, a lot of this. I mean, I feel like before, unless you went to a game to actually experience it in person, there's no way you would even be able to like describe the experience of seeing the dancers at a game. I remember my first Howard University game, and I was mind blown. But how, like, I guess when I'm thinking back in like a historical context, like how did people know to prepare for this style of dance? I mean, having that background and training, like you said, of being able to go to classes, but did the style more or less really just evolve through the training of being part of the team? And kind of, is that safe to say?
Um, it just depends on when you danced.
Okay.
Uh, when I danced, like I said, we still did not have a lot of dancers with formal dance experience, and so it was. I'm trying to think of like, how did we make up our routines? I don't remember, but I mean, but we would kind of all get together and just say, well, I like this. This looks
Yeah, yeah,
good. It's, and some teams had staples. A kick line. Dancing dolls were always going to do kick lines. Black Foxes were always going to do kick lines. Black Foxes came up with the legendary circle. If you go and and look through some of our videos and stuff, you will see the circle that we do, and that is a Black Fox staple. So you have
okay,
your
okay.
and you have that thing that you do, and then you kind of build around it with the most popular dance moves. So whatever the dance moves were for the time, that's what you put in your dances. So if in the 70s, if the funky chicken was the you
That
know
was the
the
routine.
dance of the time, then that's
Uh-huh.
what you saw in the routines. so yeah, we would do what we saw, what was around us. Now, as we've started to progress, you're starting to see, like I said, more technique. And because, our dancers are trained for
Mhm.
the squads that adhere to that style. Not every squad does that. Not every squad wants a technical squad. It just depends on what they want.
Gotcha.
And um, um, you know, we kind of, what's the word? We kind of cross germinate a little bit.
Cross pollination going on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
a little
know,
bit of everything. Like you said, if you have the ability to have your unique stamp and your own style, because that's one thing. I mean, if I could go on any tour, going to see every single HBCU and their dancers perform would be like a dream for me. But just to see the differences and like the nuances in their style and the way that they
yeah,
perform. Uh,
yeah,
so no, I mean it makes a lot of sense. And we talked earlier a little bit too about just in terms of that unique experience of being at a game and seeing the HBCU dancers in person. And obviously, social media has made it so accessible for everybody to see everything. And then we've had a proliferation of TV shows as well that have kind of come about that have brought like this more to the mainstream. Can you talk a little bit about how that's impacted um, the popularity of this style of dance for HBCUs and kind of like the pros and cons of that too?
yeah. Well, everything. If you look at what's happening in the country right now,
Mm-hmm.
uh, everything is about Black culture, HBCU culture. And, HBCUs are just kind of the easiest focal point for that. Now, we all know that Black culture is not synonymous with HBCU culture. It's not
Right.
only HBCU culture,
Right.
but it's sort of a big target because of the proliferation of our HBCUs, how many we have,
Mm-hmm.
how many students. And if you look at the statistics about our graduates, the number, the percentage of engineers, the percentage of Black doctors, the percentage of Black nurses, of Black lawyers, they're all higher from HBCUs.
Mm.
So it's an easy target for marketing.
Right.
And I'm just
That's
keeping
the
it real.
reality. Yes, exactly.
It's
Truth behind the palms over here. That's just the truth.
just the truth. It's an easy target for marketing campaigns, and these things are have their pros and have their cons. Because um, some of the HBCUs were not really ready for that. I don't even know if I should say this.
But
Okay, okay. I'm gonna say it. Okay, so this if you looked at what happened with Coach D from Bring It and the trademark issue with Southern University, uh,
mm,
HBCUs, we never imagined that we couldn't have predicted what's happening with mainstream marketing and social media. We couldn't have predicted that back in the 80s.
and,
So
and how to
um,
protect the university and the essentially their IP around this HBCU culture and having a way of enforce. I know exactly
you
what
know,
you.
so
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
kind of behind the eight ball on that.
Okay.
And as far as I know, HBCUs are doing a really great job at catching up, at trying to making sure that our assets are trademarked and protected.
Yeah.
Um, that was a big deal because we never really had to worry about it before.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
now we do. And you have different shows that have highlighted HBCUs in one way or another. Bring It was one of them. Boomerang was another. The Quad, uh,
Mhm.
Drumline started it all. Drumline,
Yeah.
and Drumline moved to a live production format, and that was called Drumline Live. And so you had all of these influences, and then you started to see it get picked up on Grownish and
Yes.
all these other shows were starting to pick this up and make these references to HBCUs. And some of them were good references and some of them were not.
Right.
It,
Right. Right.
and
And we were talking earlier about just kind of Beyonce's Coachella performance as an example where I think because everybody's just so excited, and of course you add celebrity and fame into the mix, you know, it all just seems like, oh, this is amazing, yay! And then if you really think about it and analyze it, and which is what I love about this community, you know, we just try to look at things from a holistic view and you know, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to think or how to feel, but and when we were talking about Beyonce's Coachella performance, and just the level of collaboration, at least with the band, in terms of like bringing in the right people, former band members, and all of that to perform with her at Coachella. But in terms of the dancers themselves, they weren't necessarily recruiting or what's the word, pulling auditions or picking people that were dancers at HBCUs, which would have been the grandest gesture of that nod and reverence. I mean, I watched what you call it, the Homecoming DVD or whatever it was, not
yeah,
DVD,
yeah.
the Homecoming special of how she put it all together, which seemed very well intentioned and great and all, but it was very much a I don't know what the right word is. I mean, it put it on the map, so to speak, but there's different ways of looking at it if you're not, and that's what I kind of would love to get into in terms of just what is that line of, or how our culture has evolved where it's just kind of like things go viral, things just seem very popular, and it's this view of like, I like that. I may not be from that. I like what I see. I'm going to watch this video. I'm going to learn this dance. I'm going to, you know, perform it, record myself, and post it. And then I don't have to worry about things like attribution, you know, giving credit to the person that you learned it from, or the respect of asking for permission, especially if you plan to commercialize it in any kind of way. And not that there's just this one grand association of, but you are going to talk about the association that you created of Black HBCU dance directors. We'll get into that,
Yeah.
but just this lack of appreciation for historical context and making those types of choices, or just that you can't just take just because it's popular, like popularization of things that are going viral or styles that may be new to you. Um, you know, it doesn't equate to you just being entitled to take from it, and it can be viewed as like, oh, this is for the culture and this was great. Or if you kind of take a more critical view, there's things to think about in
Mhm.
that process. And we were going to town earlier today, but I just would love to get your thoughts on.
Oh, it's a lot. It's really a lot to unpack because
Yeah.
I would not, I would never, try to downplay the benefits and the exposure and the what it has meant to performers, what it has meant to people for jobs, for people behind the scenes, for choreographers, for producers, directors. It has meant so. Please, I don't want anybody to think that I would be downplaying that at all, but it's an example, if anything. It's just an example of one situation where, as I mentioned to you earlier, the person that was instrumental in making sure that all the musicians and that the HBCU culture was represented, and that all the
Mm-hmm.
musicians band were former HBCU bandsmen, and so we were very lucky to have that, and it was a great experience for them. In fact, a lot of those musicians were also um, members of the Drumline Live cast, so they would travel around the country. In fact, I think Drumline Live was active not long ago. They kind of kicked back up after COVID, so
Yeah.
they're still performing, these instrumentalists and these HBCU performers. So it has meant a lot, uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to, I mean, anytime you connect yourself with Beyonce, good grief, you know.
Right. I mean, the ultimate resume
Yeah, I mean,
builder.
but it's not like that for every endeavor,
Right.
every activity that we see. It's not always like that,
Right.
because we are still young in the skill of attribution
Right.
and looking. I think what it is that we have to decide if we feel that what comes from an HBCU is worth that kind of protection. Um,
Right.
I, I would venture to say that there's some people that don't quite see it as that, you
They
know.
see it as kind of open season for everybody to appreciate, enjoy, and then that line probably starts to get a little blurred as to like how far can you take that? Because
Yeah,
what I see in the pro cheer and dance space, I'll just say, I mean, we talked about it a little earlier too. When it comes to choreography and what's performed at games, it's often driven by what's popular, obviously, and the hot
yeah,
choreographers and things like that. And then you'll see certain like theme nights, or it's Hispanic cultural heritage or Hispanic Heritage Month in the NFL, or there might be like theme nights in the NBA where it's Pride Night or
right.
HBC, or Black History Month. And so I see teams trying to put together performances that, maybe well intentioned to try to honor or show some respect or deference or whatever, homage to certain cultural groups. But when you think of culture and how quickly it can be just what's the word, appropriated, whether for good or bad or worse,
Hmm.
um, I think there are examples of better ways of going about doing it, and that we talked about that I would like people to think through. And we'll kind of touch on USC, towards the end. But I do think that in our space, when it comes down to um, how best to show respect to diversity and representation in that way, it doesn't mean that you, as a dance team, do a Latin themed performance that the choreographer wasn't even from that community, where you're just doing like a couple little signature looking moves that you think represent that style? Or do you invite the choreographer, maybe some different teams or dance performance groups in your area to perform with you in place of you? I mean, just giving and sharing that space in a way that's meaningful. You sent me the video of your team performing with the Houston Texans cheerleaders with John
Hmm.
Wall for halftime. Do you want to talk about kind of like where collaboration, like, or some good examples of like how teams that are in this space can actually consider as they're looking at ways of trying to, because I don't want to see like this style of dance just popping up in some 8 count somewhere, like people thinking that it's okay to just snatch stuff and just let's just not do that. Wouldn't be respectful in my view. But you want to talk about the collaboration there with the Texans, or anything around like good examples of like a better way of going about it?
Well, I want to go back and touch on something that you
Okay.
said earlier, and that is, uh, and just this is just the way I feel about it. I don't, um, one way or the other.
Right.
I think that the young ladies that created their team, if that is something that's positive and beneficial for them, as well as supported and recognized by the school,
Right.
I
Yeah.
that that's fine. But I think where you start to see the people going back and forth about it is some people who only see it as a part of Black culture, whereas those of us who attended HBCUs, we see it as HBC,
You culture.
and it's different. It's
Yeah.
not different, but it is a subset.
Yes.
But it's still its own thing. It's its own thing, and
And
so people don't really see that. They see it just as Black culture, and so that's why they're like, well, it's Black culture. There's Black people that are doing it. Why are you upset?
yeah.
Uh, So I get where the split in the conversation is happening, and we are accustomed to the HBCU versus PWI discussion back and forth, even way before the whole dance thing came up.
Came up for sure. For
We've
sure.
been we've been going back and forth on HBCU versus PWI for who knows how.
Get it. Right. Right.
Yeah. So and here was another thing that we had talked about. We had talked about earlier today was, like you said, HBCU dance teams have been around for more than 50 years.
Right.
In the year of our Lord 2022, all of a sudden, you know, you know,
Right.
it's like and I know some of them have been around for longer than that, but
Right.
now all of a sudden, you're starting to see these Majorette style or HBCU style teams popping up on PWI campuses.
Yeah.
Been
Because
around
USC
for
is not the first, and I didn't even know some of the other schools that were on the list, but a lot of them seem to be based in like the Southern California area,
yeah,
which obviously, there's that argument around like, well, there aren't any HBCUs near me. I think there used to be HBCUs in California, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me. But I
yeah,
think like the idea of, hey, I'm in a predominantly white environment. I noticed at least from looking in this space, I don't follow collegiate that closely, but I do know that the dance teams are not diverse at all. You see these national championships. We talked about it earlier too, of just like if you look at jazz, if you look at hip hop, and how it's been kind of, what's the word I want to use, where it's just been taken and where we can't even participate anymore or be recognized as kind of the creators of it. And so when you see these predominantly white teams at these universities, with dancers and audition processes and things that might be, for whatever reason, it is what it is. It's exclusionary because they're not making these teams and they may have training or different. Anyway, the point is, it is great to have a vehicle or an outlet for dancers to express themselves in their own, when a style that feels more natural or true to them. But, you know, anyway, I'm going to go on and on. Did I interrupt you? I'm terrible, terrible guest nor host. But I think we were just kind of speaking to like where that line is around how far that could go.
that line is being drawn, to be quite honest, because the reason that this is such a thing now, and I blame this thing for everything. I blame it for backaches. It's social media.
Social media.
It's social
Seriously.
media. It's the reason for everything. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so it's you know we talked about Bring It brought so much attention to this style of dance, and or at least that part of it, the majoretting style,
Right.
which as we said before, there's the majoretting style, and then
Yeah.
there's the dance genre. Blah, blah, blah. Okay,
Right.
okay.
Right.
So,
Right.
brought all this attention to that, and so you had these TV shows, and then all of a sudden, now if you go on YouTube, every HBCU that has a band has videos on YouTube, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's we had that. So we got the videos on YouTube, and then Instagram and Facebook, Instagram started coming out and everything, and then all of a sudden we have people that are reacting to the band videos, and they're critiquing the dance videos, and they're giving their opinion, and they're shouting out people. And then on Instagram we have fan pages.
You sure do. Mm-hmm.
There's fan pages for teams, and there's fan pages for members of teams.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we just the weirdest thing that I've ever experienced. But okay, all
Right.
right, here
Right.
we are.
Right. It's
We
a
are.
thing.
It's
Okay.
the it's the
Yeah.
thing. And now I think that development has kind of brought us to where we are, where people want to do it. They just want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I see it on TV, I see it on social media. Hey, let's do it. And
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 that's the end of it. There's no thought process
that
beyond,
end
like,
of it.
at all. And I'm not suggesting that the young woman from USC didn't think through the decision to start the club. This is just us talking in general about our
Right.
society and just kind of like the impulsiveness of at times in making a decision, especially around dance, because you have TikTok and you have it literally, that is the thing. To see a dance, you like it, you learn it, you dance it, and you post it, and the end. That's it. But there's a lack of consideration for, again, that this actually, in a sense of belonging, belong to HBCUs. And so it's just not necessarily that simple to take that and transplant it to a PWI. It's just it's more complicated than that. And I don't know if they were anticipating the huge divide in comments, and you guys can go on Twitter and look it up and try to pick up all, I mean, there's so many points, and we were saying this earlier, like you can understand where people are coming from with the comments, like, you know, there were valid points made. And but I know when we were talking, especially about like other schools that have formed in Southern California, and just the level of outreach that you extended through the association that you started of HBCU dance coaches, I was floored with the lack of reception to that. And I mean, you don't have to, like, I don't want to put you on the spot to talk about it, but
Well, once in Southern California, it was because there are teams like this across. You know, they're in Georgia, they're in Tennessee, you know, they're everywhere, and so I wanted. This was back when I was doing a monthly like magazine thing. Back when I had time, I don't have that anymore. The monthly magazine, and I really wanted to highlight these teams. I wanted to like have them, you know, I sent them questionnaires, and I was like, you know, I want to interview you guys, and, you know, send me some pictures, and then, you know, make sure it's okay with your coach and your school and whatever. And then I just want to, you know, interview you guys for the magazine and stuff. And it just didn't go over. It just, not at all. So I think I may have gotten, I didn't get a response really from anybody.
which I find just so shocking because, and we talked about this, and maybe it's a generational thing,
It
or
could, it could very well be.
it could be, but there's just something to be said for, and I'm not trying to deter anybody from following their dreams and making a space for themselves or what. I'm not, but I just, when I think of even things that I see in this space, in the pro chair and dance space, there's something to be said for researching, kind of doing your homework, due diligence around an idea that you have, if it's been executed before, or who kind of paved the way for you to be able to launch what it is that you're doing. And if you do see others that are doing something similar, figuring out a way to add your own stamp on having your own intellectual property, the added value, the something additional or original that you are bringing to the table. And then just like the mindset around connecting with others and kind of paying that respect of, you've done this before, or you're doing something that I want to be able to do. And the idea of, I'm not necessarily saying it's permission, but just the humility to reach across to say, you know more than me, or, and maybe because you haven't stolen from them in the first place, that makes it a lot easier to make that outreach, right? To say, hey, I really love what you're doing. I admire your team so much. You know, do you have any advice for me if I wanted to do something similar? Or are there things that I should be concerned about or thinking about if I were to do X, Y, and Z? And I don't know if this happened or didn't happen, you know, with this whole USC dance team, but I just think, at least for this space too, I really hope there's a lot of takeaways for everybody who's listening. But it's just, don't just take. How about that? Just don't just take.
If you remember, I told you that there are quite a few majorette teams in the Southern California area.
Mm-hmm.
And she, you know, to her credit, she did call it a majorette style team.
Okay.
But they're doing, if you look at the video, they're doing stand routines in the style of HBCU teams. Okay.
Right.
Because we all know that a stand battle, a stand performance is different for a majorette team versus an HBCU team. In fact, people now hold competitions and they will specify this is a stand competition and it's HBCU style versus
Wow.
majorette. So yeah,
See, and we talked about this, but I hope that really rings true for people to understand, like the difference of styles, and like, because you know, using certain naming or wording around things doesn't kind of mask and what's actually happening. And if it's down to, like you said, where with competitions where they're very distinct of then that's
Well, they've had to do that. They've had to do that, and so, like we were saying earlier, the line is really still being drawn because this is new for us, and this is. I did see the young lady that I told you about earlier.
At the
That
documentary.
her name is LaQuinda Grimes, and she I saw her join.
Yes.
She's here too, but we really have just gotten to the point where we are pulling our history together in a
Yeah.
form where we can share it with people, and so that people can
Can learn.
request, they
Yeah.
can actually immerse themselves in this information. It's not just what you see us doing today. There's over 50 years of history, more than 50 years, because like I said, we started as baton twirlers.
Right.
You know, my
Was the
my
shift?
mom
Yeah.
my mom was a baton twirler in 1955.
Wow.
So this goes way back, way back.
Hmm.
And so now we're getting to the point with this new way of doing things where we have to decide, do we want to draw this line or not? And so, like I said, it's very multi-layered. It's very, it's not a simple, you stole our stuff versus I have the right to do it. It's not, it's way more complicated than that because, we are in a season of learning about attribution and trademarking. And
Hmm.
I don't know if anybody knows this, but trademark and copyright type laws for dance are not the same as it is for music.
It's
So
not.
we have very little control over the things that we do. Very,
Which is maddening for me. I used to practice intellectual property law, not copyright, but definitely on the trademark side. And the
we
fact that choreography cannot be protected in that manner is just,
you
it's just, it's, it's
you
beyond.
copyright a piece like Swan Lake.
Right.
You can copyright that, but you cannot, because what's his name from Dancing with the Stars? What's his name?
Um,
Alphonse.
Rivero, yeah, uh-huh.
He tried to copyright the Carlton, and they
Carl dance, and they said no.
were
Hmm.
sorry, can't do it. So anything that we do, our style, our, like for example, the circle, Black Foxes.
Right.
We
Your
we
thing.
can't copyright that. We can't. There's nothing we can do. So we are in an era now of trying to understand these issues more,
Yeah.
and as we learn more, we're gonna we're going to you're gonna see changes, and it's just like we were talking about the young lady that's on Dancing with the Stars now. The young lady that's on Dancing with the Stars, God bless her,
Hmm.
good dancer. She really is. She's a good dancer, but
Oh, the
she,
D'Amelio girl. Yeah.
yeah, she
Hmm.
got her doing TikTok dances,
Right.
and
Right.
the TikTok dances belonged
Well, young
to
black.
African
Hmm.
creators.
Young black girls, young black creator. And I think
Yeah,
that's definitely a huge topic just in general. Like,
yeah,
touch this space even just over the weekend with something that I posted of just, um, you know, protection of, I mean, like you said, because of how popular black culture is, and you do have a lot of black content creators, and they create something that's catchy and goes viral, and then the attribution and association, they're not seeing the same success as the girl from Dancing with the Stars is seeing. They're not, the girl that created it is not on Dancing with the Stars. And like you said, it's a big picture of just commercialization. We talked about what happens with hip hop, we talked about what happens with jazz, and just different things that may have originated with, and again, like the distinction between black culture versus HBCU culture, but whatever case, it's not, it belongs to a particular group. And so I just think we all have to be careful and mindful of thinking that it's okay to either borrow, steal, whatever you want to call it, without taking into account that this kind of conversation will come. And hopefully, as people educate themselves, and I do hope, I will make sure I can post the link to the documentary. I think that's amazing. We have to capture the history, and I think if people learn a little bit more context in history, of they'll they'll look at hopefully the issues differently because it's not that simple, as you
Yeah.
stated. It's not.
Um, right now, I don't have the actual link to the documentary, but you can follow her
Yeah.
on HBCU Dance Line documentary
Okay.
on Instagram. HBCU Dance Line documentary, and she's got pictures and video, and it's just an amazing compilation. And yeah, I like I said, I don't. I'm hoping that it goes well, for the young ladies on these teams. Man, one of the teams even snatched our uniform. So
Really? You're kidding. Because we were talking about that earlier of some of
snatched
the
our uniform.
platforms, whether it was stealing choreography or moves and
Uh,
uniforms. And so it's just kind of, again, there's a line of like, there's a point where it's just like, that's not cool. That's not okay. And
well, I had to get on the uniform maker about that, but uh,
mhm,
but I really do, like I said, if it's a positive experience for them, if they are not being exploited, if they are being supported and allowed to,
hi,
hey,
Michelle. Thank you so much, Michelle. This has been like so dope of a conversation.
yeah, if
But
they are supported and being what's the word, if they are being presented in a positive manner,
yeah,
and because everybody's not accepting of what we do.
right. And
Everybody's not accepting of
that's
what we
so true. And it will
Yeah.
be interesting to see how well they are received. I mean, from the videos, you can see that there's a fan reaction and it seems very popular for it. But, with that popularity and obviously going viral overnight, this young woman, there's probably going to be an interesting, we'll just see how this goes. But I think from what I've heard from people who've written in since I posted the story, maybe alumni of USC, they are really wanting to see support of this. And it's a club and not like a sport
Yeah.
that's recognized by the school. So I think there are some lines there. But, and I don't know what the rules are around it, but I know it gets complicated in that college university setting. But I do, like you said, wish them the best and hope that they do get the support um, and backing that they need to have a positive experience and seeing the joy in performing and the pride and all of those things. I mean, you couldn't help but enjoy that aspect of it. And I just think this conversation to me just rounds out again the Twitter storm that's out there. If you all the social media, like you said, social media is just kind of like, ooh, it's there's pluses and minuses, right? And I mean, I'm benefiting from it now, having you with me this evening. But I just think that thank you so much for this conversation because it just rounds out a very complex picture and it gives so much context and understanding of where this belongs and if it evolves in this way, just kind of like some of the things that people should be thinking about, especially in this pro cheer and dance space. Again, not trying to tell people what they can and can't do, but I would love to see any in terms of collaboration. What I've seen with teams where I don't remember if it was Atlanta Hawks, the Washington Wizards, where they invited the HBCU dancers to the game to perform, gave them the spotlight. It wasn't about kind of putting yourself at the center of it, like I'm going to do these moves that you just, when it comes to Pride Night, whatever it is, make space for the people that you were mimicking
Right.
or you want to call it. And I know some people have that background and you want to bring it to your team and do it with your team, but there's just, it's like levels to it. So just think about maybe ways that might be a little bit more respectful to,
And
yeah.
collaboration our collaboration with the Texans was 100% positive. Like I said, one of my former dancers is a Texans cheerleader, um, and it was a little bit different because it wasn't Black History Month. We weren't really,
There wasn't like,
but it
yeah.
was still great collaboration. And what I hope will come from it is, and with that collaboration and others that we may see in the future, is that we see more HBCU dancers who are dancing on the professional level, and that are given the opportunity to be able to show that they can do whatever style you throw at them,
Most
and because
importantly,
our dancers are highly trained, so they can do just about anything,
anything.
right?
Exactly.
So I'm really hoping that that's what comes out of it. But as you mentioned, founded an association for HBCU auxiliary and dance directors and coaches and performers, or can be members, and we discuss topics like this, but we also set ourselves up for training current coaches and people who want to be coaches, and because we do have some HBCU coaches who did not attend HBCUs. So, we want to be able to bring up these topics and just have this open forum and discussions about, whatever it is. We'll have movement workshops for performers, and so we have a lot of things in store that we want to do. So I would definitely encourage, this young lady in any of the HBCU style or majorette style dance teams to reach out to us and to consider us a resource.
I love that. I mean, I think that's really the answer, is having resources, education, a community, and that open line of communication, so these ideas can be exchanged and talked through. People can understand each other a little bit more. If you are starting something and you need support, I mean, there's just, why not do it your own way when you can have that as like a resource along that path? And I love to hear, and I love the video of the performance with the Houston Texans cheerleaders. I'll have to post that somehow and share that, but it was beautiful to see. The focal point obviously being, the band and the whole, taking up the whole field, right? Because it's a performance for halftime. But, your team had their moment and spotlight. Of course it's the footage of what they can grab, right? But everything's going on, but it wasn't, the whole routine wasn't just the collaboration of both teams. You had a section where the Houston Texans cheerleaders were dancing kind of front and center. Your team, the Black Foxes, were front and center, and then you danced together. And I just thought it was like, this is a great way to incorporate the styles that might become very, very popular. And like, this was not a brand new one. And before people, like I said, start plucking what looks cool and turning it into their own, or whatever people think is okay these days, I just hope people take into account our conversation and support these. I mean, I love the light that all the HBCU dance teams are getting. I mean, I do love seeing the Instagram accounts where I can actually see the performances and stuff, since I can't be at games. But I just want to give your team a big shout out. The talent and the leadership obviously is phenomenal. And I thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. You, Michelle, for getting us together.
I know, for connecting us together. Michelle, cheers to you. Thank you guys so much for listening. I know it's late over there, so I don't want to keep you, but if people have any questions, if they want to drop in the chat or what have you, we're happy to kind of. Oh, I'd love to know more about the association. Where can they find information about the association, like the full name of it? Yeah, people are shouting you out. They know you.
Yeah. The association, I'm on Instagram at hbcu.aux.dance.
Okay. Wait, hold on. hbcu.aux.dance.
Directors.
Yeah. Instagram is so problematic when you have to create these handles. It's like, okay, so HBCU. And I wish I knew how to do the whole type it in and pin it, but I'll probably knock my phone down. hbcu.aux.dance.directors is how they find the association. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm also on Facebook, and it's on it's just the name, National HBCU Auxiliary and Dance Directors Association. I know that's a mouthful. National HBCU Auxiliary and Dance Directors Association, and we're on Facebook with that name. We're in the process of getting our website stood up, so I'm hoping like within the next 2 weeks or so, we'll have our website up, and we are preparing for our yearly conference, which is going to be held in Atlanta, the last week of March, going into that April 1st weekend. We have our yearly conference in conjunction with the the HBCU Band Directors Consortium.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll be our conference at the same time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She said she likes black foxes. Thank you.
Yeah.
But we'll be having our conference this 2023,
Okay.
and um, so there'll be, if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see information. We've already done a save the date, so pretty soon we'll start putting out information about the lectures and the workshops and all kinds of things that we're going to have, plus all the fun we're going to have, and
Yes. Oh man,
so
that sounds
yeah.
like quite the event, and I just love that that you created this. I mean, this is what it's all about, and to offer that as a resource to others that are that are coaching, and because this is also a pipeline, right? This is at the high school level that you have people that are
Yeah.
starting teams. Like it's not just like at the collegiate level, and people.
Right.
Yeah.
We're trying to nurture the pipeline, and we include community teams as well. So
Okay.
then
Awesome.
we have members. We have members that are former alumni, that are former performers, alumni, former coaches. We even have supporters, just people who just love HBCU
So
dance.
I can
So
come.
yeah, you can come
Oh,
join. It's not just for coaches, and specifically, we're developing content for our conference that touches
oh,
every what we do. So, for example, with alumni, we're looking to, talk about, how to support your current team, how to start an alumni foundation, or, how to raise money for your team, those kinds of things. So there's education for
okay.
everyone, not just the current coaches, not just the current performers.
Current
There's
performance.
education.
Well, thank you for that invitation and extension of, I might just crash. Somebody in the comments is asking, and of course, it's hard to see over people's faces. Can you talk about how it's been to partner with former pro dancers such as Dara McFarland from DCC/Laker Girls and Imani of HEX Cheer or Houston Texans Cheer and
Yeah.
Brittany of DC Rhythm and Blue. So we did talk about Houston Texans, but
Yeah.
do you want to address some of the other
Yes. So
departments, so to speak?
is my former dancer that's a Texans cheerleader right now, and her presence is always there, whether she's there in person or not. They know about Imani. She's always offering advice to the girls. She comes in and she's just very supportive. And then Imani and I, and this might be news to her right now, but she and I are going to be doing some workshops here in the Houston area together. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah.
You heard it first. No, I'm just kidding.
But with Dara McFarland, she's Dara Zachery now, and she's a former Laker girl and a former DC, and she has been one of my clinicians. And Dara and I met by total accident, which just shows me we were meant to meet. And she has been a clinician and an adjudicator at my auditions for the past 5-6 years. I mean, she's and she comes in and she teaches them the basic, technique, and but then she gives them the pro style. She gives them, because Dara knows every style. But she was a competitive dancer before she became a pro cheerleader. So, she's able to give my girls that. And like I said, I like to bring my clinicians in to teach them about movement and how to move and how to interpret music and how to do these things, so that we're not peeking at other people's routines and
Right. It like
that,
you wanted them to have just that exposure to, like you said, technicians where you are learning things about and how to
yeah.
express it. So it kind of feels more organic in your body and in the way that you perform it as well, which is just
Right.
which I wish on pro teams that there was more time for that level of training, even while you're on a team, where you kind of really
Right.
focus on that, because it just elevates, I think, the what is the word? The showmanship and the everything with the performance when you have that freedom
Yeah.
of movement and learning all of that stuff. I'm not trained, so I don't want to sound like I'm speaking from the tech space, but
we use as an example, I mean, we talk about, pro dance all the time, and one of the biggest things that it teaches us is just the pure showmanship. Pro dancers and cheerleaders perform to thousands, tens of thousands of people. So that showmanship level is just unmatched. The things that you guys have to do, and so that's really what we take from that. Yeah, I mean, there's the steps. Like I said, we do kick lines like DCC. We do the jump split like DCC. But what we take from that is just the overall showmanship aspect.
yeah.
Performance aspect. You gotta dance bigger than you are. You have to, you got to dance for the people up there, not
Yeah.
down here. And, it's, yeah. So that's what we get from it. But I like to give them a well-rounded experience.
Yeah. Well, no, it's great to see the collaborations. I'm glad that Marcus in the comments had asked that question. If anybody else has any questions, I don't want to keep Shawn all night long because it's
I'm good. I'm a night owl. I'm good.
But no, this has been
around the time I would just be getting back from rehearsal.
okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm
Well,
good.
okay, good. I just really appreciate your time and this conversation. And while people put anything in the chat, I'm just going to look at my notes to make sure we didn't forget to talk about anything. But I'm just so pleased with this conversation and your time. And I can't wait to share more of these. I'll pull it together and tag stuff so that people can kind of get to these accounts to follow for the documentary as well as your association.
Yeah.
People to see the performance with the Houston Texans. You send the video for it. So all that will be, put together in the post.
And I definitely, we will stay in touch, and
Yeah.
that we can do it. I had already told Michelle that I wanted her to come to Atlanta,
Okay.
and she's
Michelle,
been,
we're going to Atlanta and
yeah,
said March to April.
and she's been trying to get me to come to Portland for years. So I want to go so bad because she has her summer and spring and summer workshops and stuff prior to auditions and everything, and I was like, I just want to come. I just want to watch.
Yeah. Well, Michelle is awesome. You're getting so much love in the comments. I'm an alumni of Prairie View AMU, former dancer for DC Rhythm and Blue, and just giving you love. This is amazing. I hope to see you in March, April, meet you in person, come into this the conference. I would be honored and just so excited. And that's phenomenal. Okay, we're going, Michelle. Shawn is the GOAT. I love all. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. This will be up on the feed where people can share it out, and it's just a great conversation to have. And we'll see what happens and keep monitoring it, and hopefully people take away some of the points that we discussed and think about it when it comes to performances this season. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What'd you say?
I said thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course, of course. Thank you, and I will let you go for the night. Thank you guys for joining. This has been phenomenal. I would keep you, but I just, we'll be in touch. Exactly.
Talk to you guys and have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry for YouTube that you didn't get to see this in-person exchange. I go back and forth over whether to post the full video in that skinny little, what do they call it, shorts format. But I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Like, this was exactly the kind of conversation that I thought rounded out a lot of social media comments, whether they were for or against what happened with the USC new Majorette Dance Team that formed. But Shawn, obviously, I mean, did you not get all the tidbits and just context and history? So I'm not going to keep you. Thank you so much for joining. Sorry, I kind of rushed through my little tour stops going to the Seahawks game and the Ravens game. But again, thank you so much. You guys looked amazing out there. These are just my observations. I will, next time you see me live, I'll probably be kind of talking you guys through my vision of basically doing a pro dance team kind of playoff, but focus on NFL this time. So if you have videos from your preseason routines or your games so far that you want to send in to me, please DM me. We'll figure out how to get the files sent, but I just want to see what you guys are doing because I want to kind of just show and pull like my favorites and we can kind of vote and have some fun interaction. But there's just, I need to see videos and content, and if it's uploaded to YouTube, send me the link. But I want to see what you guys are doing until the next time I go on a trip, and I'll keep you posted as to where I will be landing next. But in the meantime, you guys have a wonderful night. I'm going to finish my rosé, and I will see you next time. Good night.